How to let go of expectations and live a completely carefree life. What if I told you that almost all of your suffering, your stress, your frustration, your disappointment, comes from one thing? And what if I told you that if you could let go of this one thing, you would experience a level of freedom that most people will never know? That thing is expectation. Think about it. Every single time you've felt let down by someone, it was because you expected them to act a certain way and they didn't. Every time you've felt frustrated with yourself, it was because you expected to be further ahead, stronger, more successful, or more disciplined than you currently are. Every moment of disappointment, every instance of anger, even most of your fears, they all come from a gap between what you expect and what actually happens. We walk through life carrying expectations about everything: our relationships, our careers, our future, even the way strangers should behave. And because reality rarely aligns perfectly with our expectations, we constantly feel like something is wrong. We feel like we are being cheated, like life is unfair, like people are inconsiderate. But what if the problem isn't life? What if the problem is our expectations? Not in a nihilistic, nothing matters way, but in a way where you stop assuming the world owes you anything. You stop believing that people should treat you a certain way. You stop expecting success to come easily. You stop demanding that life unfold exactly as you planned. Instead, you simply observe. You take in each moment as it comes, without pre-deciding how it should be. Do you realize how powerful that would be? How it can be? Do you realize how powerful that would be?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Most people live in a constant state of resistance. They are always fighting reality, always mentally arguing with what is. This shouldn't have happened. They should have done this differently. I should be somewhere else by now. This resistance creates suffering. It turns life into a battle, a struggle against what simply is. But life does not care about your expectations. It moves forward, indifferent to what you think should happen. And the more you resist it, the more you suffer. So here's the real question. What are you expecting from life that is making you miserable? Are you expecting people to always understand you? To always say the right things? Are you expecting success to come without struggle? Are you expecting your plans to unfold without obstacles? Are you expecting the world to be fair? Because if you are setting yourself up for constant disappointment. Now, I know what you're thinking. So, am I just supposed to stop caring? Am I supposed to let people walk all over me? Am I supposed to give up on my goals? No. Letting go of expectations does not mean you stop having standards. It does not mean you stop striving for greatness. It simply means you stop assuming that the universe is obligated to give you what you want, when you want it, in the exact way you imagined. Because here's the truth. Expectation is the enemy of peace, but intention is the path to freedom. When you replace expectation with intention, everything changes. Instead of expecting people to treat you well, you simply decide that you will treat them well. Instead of expecting success to come easily, you commit to taking action regardless of how difficult the path becomes. Instead of expecting life to be free of hardship, you prepare yourself to handle whatever comes with strength and grace. So, what would happen if, starting today, you stopped What if, instead of resisting everything that doesn't go your way, you simply allowed it to be as it is? What if you embraced each moment, not as a disappointment, not as a failure, but as an unfolding of reality that you are free to respond to in any way you choose? Because here's the secret, the less you expect, the more you appreciate, and the more you appreciate, the freer you become. The illusion of control, why letting go sets you free. We like to believe we are in control, that if we plan carefully enough, work hard enough, and make all the right choices, life will unfold exactly as we want it to. But deep down, we know the truth. Control is an illusion. No matter how much effort we put into shaping our future, there will always be variables beyond our power. People will act in unpredictable ways. Circumstances will shift without warning. Plans will collapse. The world will move forward according to forces far greater than our individual will. And yet, Despite knowing this, we cling desperately to the idea that if we just try a little harder, we can force life to obey our expectations. This is where suffering begins. Suffering is not caused by life itself. It is caused by our resistance to life. It is not the event that hurts us, but our belief that the event should not have happened. It is not rejection that wounds us, but our expectation that we should have been accepted. It is not failure that breaks us, but our assumption that success should have been guaranteed. Every moment of frustration, anger, and disappointment is rooted in one thing: the refusal to accept reality as it is. But what if you could let go? What if you could wake up each day without the burden of expectations, without the constant need to control every outcome? What if, instead of resisting life, you flowed with it? Imagine the freedom of embracing uncertainty, of meeting the unknown not with fear but with curiosity. Imagine how much lighter you would feel if you no longer carried the weight of how things should be and instead focused entirely on how they are. This is the essence of true peace, not controlling life but surrendering to it. Now, the word surrender often carries negative connotations. It sounds passive, like giving up. But real surrender is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the realization that your power does not come from controlling every detail, but from how you respond to whatever comes your way. It is the ability to adapt, to remain unshaken, to stay grounded even when the world around you is in chaos. Think about water. Water does not resist obstacles, it flows around them. It does not fight against barriers, it reshapes itself to move forward. A rigid tree will snap in the storm, but a flexible one will bend and survive. The same principle applies to life. The more rigid your expectations, the more easily you will break. The more fluid you become, the more effortlessly you will navigate the unpredictable nature of existence. But letting go of control does not mean becoming passive. It does not mean you stop striving, stop dreaming, stop building the life you want. It simply means you stop demanding that life unfold in a specific way. You stop attaching your happiness to outcomes. You stop measuring your worth by external achievements. You stop believing that things have to go according to plan in order for you to be at peace. When you let go, something incredible happens. Opportunities appear where you least expect them. Relationships become more authentic because you are no longer forcing people to fit into your expectations. You become fearless because there is nothing left to lose. When you are no longer attached to outcomes, failure loses its sting, and success becomes a natural byproduct of your actions rather than an obsession. So ask yourself, what are you afraid of losing? What are you desperately trying to control that is only bringing you stress and anxiety? What would happen if, just for a moment, you let go? Most people spend their entire lives worrying about things they cannot change, obsessing over details that will never matter in the long run. But the happiest people, the ones who move through life with ease and joy, are the ones who have mastered the art of surrender. They are not indifferent, they are simply free. Free from the need to control, free from the fear of the unknown, free from the endless cycle of expectations and disappointment. The truth is, life will never be exactly what you expect. People will surprise you, circumstances will shift, you will win, you will lose, you will rise, you will fall. But through it all, you have a choice. You can fight against reality and suffer, or you can embrace the flow of life and be at peace. Which will you choose? Redefining happiness, the freedom of living without attachment. What if happiness was never meant to be something you chase? What if the very act of pursuit is the reason it remains elusive? We are conditioned to believe that happiness is something we must earn through success, through relationships, through achievement. We attach it to external conditions, convincing ourselves that once we reach a certain point, we will finally be at peace. But have you ever noticed that no matter how much you accomplish, there is always another milestone, another goal, another expectation waiting to pull you forward? This is the trap of attachment. We attach our happiness to things outside of ourselves: money, status, love, validation. And because everything in life is temporary, this attachment guarantees that we will always live in a state of fear of losing what we have. Fear of never getting what we want? Fear that we are not enough, that we are falling behind, that we are missing out. But what if none of this was necessary? What if happiness was never something to be found, but something to be realized? The moment you stop attaching your peace to external circumstances, you become free. You no longer need things to go a certain way in order to feel good. You no longer need people to act a certain way in order to be at peace. You no longer need the future to unfold according to your plans in order to feel secure. You simply exist, fully engaged in the present, unattached to any particular outcome. And this is where true power lies. When you are no longer dependent on the world to give you happiness, you become untouchable. You can lose everything and still be at peace. You can fail and still feel whole. You can walk away from situations that do not serve you, not because you are indifferent, but because you no longer believe that your well-being depends on anything outside of you. But how do you reach this state? How do you break free from the attachments that have controlled you for so long? You start by questioning them. Ask yourself, what am I clinging to? What do I believe I need in order to be happy? What fear is driving me to hold on so tightly? Because more often than not, the things we are most attached to are the very things that cause us the most suffering. The more we believe we need something, the more power it has over us. But when we let go, when we surrender the idea that we must have a particular outcome in order to be fulfilled, life becomes infinitely lighter. Think about the happiest moments of your life. Were they planned? Were they the result of careful calculation, or did they arise naturally in moments of presence and spontaneity? True joy is never something you force, it is something you allow. And the more you release your attachment to how things should be, the more space you create for the unexpected beauty of life to unfold. So what would happen if you let go right now? If you stop believing that happiness is somewhere in the future and recognize that it is already within you? If you stop clinging to control and simply allowed yourself to experience life as it comes, because the truth is, freedom is not something you attain, it is something you realize you have always had. The art of effortless living, becoming one with the flow of life. If you truly let go of expectations, if you release the need to control, if you stop attaching your happiness to fleeting things, what remains? What is left when you strip away the illusions, the anxieties, the endless striving? Freedom, a kind of effortless existence that most people will never experience because they are too busy fighting against the current of life. Effortless living is not laziness. It is not about giving up or resigning yourself to fate. It is about moving in perfect harmony with life rather than resisting it. It is about trusting that whatever happens is exactly what is meant to happen, not because of some mystical destiny, but because it is happening. And to argue with reality is to argue with the ocean while standing knee-deep in its waves. Most people live as if life is something they must conquer. They push, they pull, they demand, they force, and in doing so, they create unnecessary suffering. But look at the most powerful forces in nature. The river does not force its way through the landscape, it flows. The wind does not struggle to move, it simply moves. The seasons do not resist change, they transition effortlessly. Why then do we believe that we must fight against life in order to live well? Imagine living each day without mental resistance. You wake up, and instead of immediately worrying about what needs to be done, you simply take the next step. You allow yourself to be fully present in whatever you are doing without the weight of expectation pressing down on you. When challenges arise, you meet them, not with frustration, but with curiosity. When things don't go as planned, you adapt rather than resist. Instead of seeing life as a series of problems to solve, you see it as an unfolding experience to be witnessed. This is not passivity, it is mastery. Because when you stop wasting energy on resistance, you gain energy for creation. When you stop attaching your happiness to outcomes, you unlock a level of joy that is independent of circumstance. When you stop fearing uncertainty, you begin to see it as the very thing that makes life beautiful. The unknown is not something to be afraid of, it is the space where possibility lives. But the greatest gift of effortless living is peace, a peace that is not dependent on things going right, a peace that is not shaken by failure, rejection, or uncertainty, a peace that remains no matter what happens because it is rooted in the understanding that life is not something to be controlled, it is something to be experienced. So the final question is this: are you ready to stop fighting? Are you ready to release the endless struggle, the constant resistance, the exhausting expectations? Are you ready to live, truly live, in a way that is free, light, and effortless? Because the moment you decide to let go is the moment you realize you were never really holding on to anything in the first place.